Hey, James, welcome to Quick Take. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for topic roulette.
Topic roulette. James and I were in the green room talking, and he goes, Stop. I don't even want to know what it is. Let's go live.
And here we
So,
are.
and here we are. So, I was starting to tell you that one thing that I talk to teams a lot about is managing up. And it's not just about managing up to your boss, it's managing kind of all
Yeah.
around you.
Yeah.
And it's really important for leaders to teach their teams how to manage up. If you're not teaching them what your expectations are, how you like information, how to present to you, then you're just creating frustration for yourself. And what was one concept that you may have heard of before? It's called first team.
hmm
And it's about if you, as a senior team, prioritize your colleagues as your first team versus your direct reports, you will actually create a better culture and atmosphere for your direct reports because that trust across is so important. Collaboration, working through things, and really prioritizing that helps the people below you have better success and work together.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with that concept, but I think what I'm hearing you say is that having lived this, that oftentimes leaders, C-level leaders, will be more focused on their direct reports and their team. And by
Yeah.
pivoting their focus to the first team, which is their peers, essentially, you create a better environment. And then it results in your team, your direct reports being benefited. But that first team focus drives the right behaviors more indirectly. Is that what we're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I had a client, he's an SVP and he has VPs that work for him.
Mhm.
And he was frustrated because they weren't working together. So
Right.
they were coming to him with things and then he would
Yeah,
have to
totally.
kind of play dad. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly right. And he had to like really instill this first team. And at first, the group was like, but that doesn't make it's not intuitive. I'm
right,
supposed to be first to the people that work for me. And that's
right.
who my allegiance needs to be because
Sure.
they're working for me.
Right.
But over time, it took some time. Over time, they built a really rich relationship. And then lo and behold, they stopped going to him to play referee.
Right.
They really worked it out and then were more strategic to him
Right.
because they didn't have a scarcity mindset anymore. It wasn't all about me, it was about us.
So how do you go about embracing that team first approach? I mean, in my mind, your classic C-level group is, you've got a finance person, you've got a HR person, you've got legal, you've got sales, you've got engineering. What do you do to create that unity there?
And I would also say in a corporate environment too, it doesn't have to be all of those distinct things, but they're still distinct because you could have marketing, creative tools,
Oh, sure. No, yeah,
technology.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
It could
there
be
can
at
be
the
a
lower
wide
level.
range.
Yeah.
But it's about having them in the same meetings. It's
Mhm.
about having them talk amongst themselves. I think it's important to talk about this concept with them and just say, let's talk about how this would be of benefit
Mhm.
and it takes time. I did work with a team that they saw themselves very separate. They sold to different marketplace.
Oh,
So
yeah,
their
sure.
customer personas were not the same. Some people were support and they didn't have the continuity and so
Yeah.
they never had a staff meeting because it's like
Oh, wow.
that's just a waste of time. So their boss forced them to have a staff meeting all together and over time they saw how they could help each other. They started to see that even though there's not a direct correlation to what I do versus what you do, there is overlap and support that we can give one another as peers.
Well, I like that. The first good indicator that you're in trouble is that you don't have a regular meeting with your peers.
Yeah.
I can totally understand that scenario you described where, we just all report to the same person, but we
Yes.
do so different things it's not relevant. But boy, what a weird dynamic that creates. And by saying, look,
Totally.
our team is the first team, you really
Mhm.
see a different point of view and definitely benefit from that. I read an article yesterday, HBR put out Harvard Business Review. Basically, I forget the title, but the gist of it was that the CEO should have less one-on-ones.
Mhm.
And I really think
Hmm.
it goes to the same spirit. I've talked to a couple of clients about that, and they immediately embrace the idea simply because what happens is when you have those series of individual meetings, and the article talks about this, is you have this diffused messaging system. and you
Yeah.
have inconsistency in your vision just by the nature of the fact that you're talking to multiple people. And I think
Yeah.
that is another great characteristic of not following that team first mindset, because you are individually managing each one of those folks. You're giving them one-on-ones, or as simple as one-on-ones, or maybe you have separate department meetings for each group. But at the end of the day, you're not treating them as a unit, and that is negative.
And I also think about the nuances. I love that idea of the messaging from,
Hmm.
like you said, from the leader having inconsistency, and
Hmm.
even the interpretation
Right.
when you don't have the benefit of how other people, what questions are asking, or how it's landing with them.
Right.
You also miss that context. But also think about it, that leader is responsible to kind of tell the other people about the nuances of their peers. And so, without hearing directly from them, their challenges, not hearing from them, kind of where they need support, you can't dictate that to somebody to go to this person if they didn't have the benefit
Yep.
of the context around it.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we have that. I guess maybe it goes
Yeah.
back to, we're better together. We constantly say that on the
Hmm.
show. And I think in this case, it is those, again, not necessarily we need to be in the same room, but I think we should. But, when you hear the leader explain it to a department that you know nothing about or don't really care about, you might hear it in a different way. We have stories and people we work with who are confident that they heard it the right way when it was told to them the first time, and to find out later that, gosh, that was not what I meant at all. That's one of the biggest complaints that the CEOs I work with have, is that people hear what they want to hear and don't hear what I meant. And by
Yeah.
creating an environment and where it's heard by multiple people, and there's a dialogue around it, of course it's going to be better.
It made me think about when you and I used to work together, and you being on the technical side, the
Hmm.
engineering side, and me being in the kind of sales, business development, thinking about the clients. And if we needed to deliver something faster, your response would be, I don't have the people to do this. If we do this, it's not going to be as good.
Right.
These are the things. And I'm having the perspective of, in the marketplace, they need this to happen quickly, or our competitors are doing it faster than us. And without that understanding
Right.
between you and I, there's no way for us to really truly understand and have empathy
Hmm.
and be able, then that gives you more context to go to your people and say, I understand that this is going to be really difficult for us to do, but let's look at it from this perspective
Right.
too. And what can we do?
No, I think it's important in that example for sure, for engineering to understand the marketplace and for the sales organization to understand the challenges. Always a win. And I think that that's a great example of how, when you have a team first mentality, that first team mentality, you're going to have that stuff. I am intrigued by organizations where you have, if you go down a little bit into the org, I think it's even more interesting, where you have peers that kind of do the same thing, but not
Yeah.
enough to have to talk. I think your example of like a
Yeah.
marketing, let's see, a CMO and their groups and their direct reports, they're all in the marketing space, but does the social ad group really need to know what's going on with investor relations? Sorta, but having them more unified and having that first team really changes the dynamic.
Totally. And that is such a great example, because in this group that I facilitated a few weeks
Hmm.
ago, there were directors in the room. And
Right.
what that the postmortem with the senior leadership was, I saw them meeting, collaborating, and they didn't even know why. They
Right.
just said, you know what? Let's just get together and talk. And you're right. They all kind of sell, but they sell to different people that they never saw that there was a connective tissue
Yeah. Yeah.
before, but they're just trying it out, and they're sharing so that whatever they're telling their teams, there's continuity and
Yeah.
consistency across what they're doing as well. And I thought that was so cool for them just to even try it out.
I'm interested in why they felt, I mean, how they got there. I mean, what was the mindset? Do you know why they chose not to do those meetings, or was there just a belief that there wasn't value?
Yeah, there was a belief there wasn't value.
Mm.
And they hadn't thought about the fact that their different perspectives and sharing amongst themselves, there's power in that, even
Right.
support in that, to go, this is such a drag that we have to, especially that middle management that
Right.
has to understand what's going on up here and then
Hmm.
understands empathetically for individual contributors, who report into them, what those challenges are. That support system helps them not only align, but help give some context. You know what? I tried this
Right.
and it actually worked really well to make boundaries and to say, 3 times I'm doing this in my staff meeting. And so just seeing it from a different view helped them go, I'm going to try this. And I think this could be really powerful.
Yeah, it seems so obvious, having this meeting and having the cross pollination and having the different perspectives in the room would be a value. But I suspect that it's more common than we think. And I think that
Yeah.
there's some of our listeners are going, well, that doesn't apply to us because of X. But I think the reality is that applies to more people. And if you have peers of yours that you report into the same person, yet don't have regular meetings with each other, you might want to take a
The missed
beat and think
opportunity.
about that and go, why is that? And would there not be value? I think it's a
Hmm.
really interesting gut check for both leaders and for managers to try to determine if they need to make a change.
Yeah. And let's be honest, we're doing more with less
Yeah.
and we're going from meeting to meeting. And I think that was the other aha with this senior
Mhm.
team is we're not prioritizing it. We're on the treadmill of getting stuff done.
Right.
And so I think this is a good reminder to put your head up, look out, and how can you be a little bit more proactive in your approach with your peers?
No, I love that too. Yeah. Don't forget the value of that interpersonal connection of that team and how that will ultimately benefit the tactical work.
Yeah, absolutely.